Okay, hello. So, this is the last chapter in part one, chapter five, Demanding Reader. Of course, we're doing the book, How to Read a Book. Okay, first of all, this chapter, and indeed the book in general, focuses on nonfiction, okay, i.e., practical expository books. Books, not texts in general, okay, but books specifically. That's the focus. Active readers of such books ask questions they then seek to answer. As I told you, this is one of the pillars of this book. Okay, if you don't remember anything from this summary, please remember this: active readers of books ask questions they then seek to answer. Okay, there are four main, pretty self-explanatory questions such readers ask. Okay, so they're a great place. These are not obviously not the only questions you can and probably should ask. Okay. Again, this is the book is a general guideline. Okay, but this is probably not probably, and this is a good start. Okay, so first question you should ask about any book is, what is the book about as a whole? Right. So in other words, what are the main arguments and what are their respective subcategories? Okay, if you claim that you have read a book well, you must be able to answer this question. Okay. Question number two: what is being said in detail and how? Okay. Question three: is the book true in whole or in part? And four, what of it? Right? In other words, what is the significance of what you have just read? If you've understood and accepted what the author said, so what? Right? So, what should you change, right? What should you do? All right. Keep in mind that if you ask no questions, right, you will get no answers. Okay? So, asking these questions must become a habit. Okay? You must have a system in place. Okay? As you're reading books. Okay? I use, my laptop. Okay? I have, what is it called? Microsoft OneNote. Yeah. Okay, that's where I write my summaries on. I have Goodreads, which sort of helps me keep organized. But that's not really where I answer these questions. Sometimes I type out what I think, in terms of reviews. Um, yeah, I have folders where I put all this stuff right with the images. Okay, I have a system. Okay, I also write on the book itself. Okay, I don't know if you can see. Okay, for instance, here, I've underlined stuff in blue. I write in red the words I'm not fully comfortable with, or sometimes I know the word in context, but I don't know how to use it. Sometimes, uh, you know, I haven't even heard of it. And I also write notes. Okay, um, so that's my way. Okay, other people like to have a notebook. Okay, some people like to keep their books pristine. I have a friend, I have a couple of friends like that. When I tell them, hey, you should really write on the book, right? Underline, write in the margins. Okay, agree, disagree, write the words you don't understand. Okay, for some people it's anathema. Okay, it's akin to a death sentence. Fine, come up with a system, right? Put sticky notes. Write them on a Word document or OneNote or Google Docs or whatever. Um, yeah, have a separate notebook. Okay, whatever you do, okay, is not really the point. Okay, if it works for you and you're extracting what you should be extracting from the book, you're on the right track. Okay, so asking these questions must become a habit. As I've said, that means you need to put a system in place, and you must also know how to answer them, right, precisely and accurately. Many people ignore good books not because they're lazy, so much as they don't know how to make them their own, so to speak. Okay, so what does that mean anyway? Okay, this essentially means, according to Adler. Okay, remember 1972. There are no laptops and stuff. Okay, I've given you the alternatives, but for him and Van Doren, it means writing in it. Okay, write in the margins, write in spaces, anywhere. Okay, thinking is writing and writing is thinking, right? They feed each other via a positive loop. Okay, you cannot, if you just think something, it remains muddled, right? When you're forced to write it, you're forced to organize your thoughts. Okay, and when you organize your thoughts, you have more to write about. The more you write about, the more you can think. Okay, and so on. It's a beautiful, positive, self-feeding loop. Okay, I've written it here. Writing forces you to organize your thought, i.e., think, and the more you think, the more you'll have to say, i.e., write about. Okay. Therefore, when you write in the margins, often called annotation, okay, you note differences or agreements. You write quick summaries, reactions, make links to other ideas or texts, questions. Okay, whatever. All right, whatever it is. So annotating may involve or all or some of the following. Okay, these are their suggestions. I don't think I've added any of my own, but anyway. Okay, the first is to underline. I've showed you I've underlined. Okay, using vertical lines to mark long passages or to further emphasize a chunk of text. Okay, that's not something I use, but it's in the book. I thought I'd tell you about it. For extremely important arguments, use a star or an asterisk or whatever, any symbol that works for you. Okay, I also don't use that. Maybe I should. Use numbers for an extended argument to help you keep track of the points stated. Okay, so the author will start with an argument, and oftentimes, especially in things like philosophy, those arguments can run for pages and pages and pages. Okay, so to help you stay organized and to help you find what you want more quickly, try numbering them. Okay, so point one starts on whatever page 5, right? Where does it end and where does point 2 begin? Okay, it may be 3 pages from point 1. Okay, so I think especially for philosophy, but I'm sure other works as well, this is a really good point to keep in mind. Okay, 5. If the author mentions a point on several separate pages, write the page numbers accordingly for easy comparison or referencing. All right, you can do this, in several ways. Okay, you can write all of them. Okay, so if the author talks about this on page 5, 8, 13, and 16, okay, on page 5, you can write all the other pages, right? 8, whatever I said, 12, 14, 16, okay? And then on page 8, you write 5, 12, 14, 16, and so on. Okay, 6, you can try circling key terms. Finally, write anywhere you have space questions or answers related to the passage or passages. Okay, I've given you examples of what you can write. Okay, do you agree? Do you disagree? Write more questions. Okay, as I said here, does it remind you of another author? If so, what work? Do you remember the work? Okay, write those down. You never know when they might be, when they might prove useful. So all of these will allow you to make a personalized outline of the book, okay, which serves several purposes. The most important of these is demonstrating to yourself that you have grasped the overall structure of the book, right? That you must get to a point where you can mentally visualize, okay, where the author started, where he or she, moved to, and how he or she ended. Right? It's important to have that structure in mind. Another reason is having a quick reference, right? When you need one. So if you do write a detailed outline, and then you're like, yeah, right? He talks about, for instance, speed reading. I know it's somewhere at the beginning, but I forgot what, is it chapter 1? Is it chapter 2? Is it chapter 3? Oh man, is it even in part 1? Could be in part 2, right? If you have it all planned out, you know where to go quickly. Okay, so what may seem like a waste of time at the beginning will pay you dividends in the long run. Again, okay, I've said that in the overview, I think. These rules are written to perfection. Okay, this is how a 10 out of 10 looks like. Will all books deserve your full effort? Will all books deserve that 10 out of 10? No. right? Some books you read and you're like, oh God, I'm not touching that ever again, right? It's not for me. Maybe you tried a new genre. I tried reading finance books. My God, I mean, you can imagine someone who comes from an English lit background and have a master's in classics and ancient history. So my brain is a very humanities brain, right? I don't like reading things like business and stuff. But I said, learn how to invest. It'll be good for you, right? Think about your future. So I got a book. You'll see it on my Goodreads. Investing for Dummies, right? I mean, it's the easiest book probably to read, and it was hell, right? It was absolute hell. Okay, it's so boring, and not because the author is a bad author. On the contrary, okay, but it was so bland, right? It was so boring. Um, the content is boring, right? The genre is boring to me, right? How to make money. I'd rather be learning about myself and the world and all that jazz, right? So sorry, I'm not summarizing that one. I'm not reading it again, right? I decided to give a professional my money, even if they're gonna take 2% of it or something, and let someone who knows what they're doing invest for me. Okay. So did I outline the book? No. Did I summarize it? No. Okay. Um, okay. That does not mean that I didn't read well. I read to fit my purpose. Okay. But if I had planned on coming back to it, having an outline is important. Okay. Anyway, these are the major ideas of this chapter. Okay. With its closing comes the end of part 1. I'll see you in the next video where we start part 2.